So I gave all four of them the same problem, same prompt, same constraints. And one of them, I'm not going to tell you which one yet, gave me an answer so confidently wrong it would have cost a real company a real lawsuit if someone actually deployed it. That's not a benchmark score. That's not a marketing slide. That's what happens when you actually stress test these things instead of reading the press releases. But here's the thing. There isn't one winner. And anyone telling you there is, they're either selling something or they've only tested one use case. What I found when I actually went model by model, task by task, is that the answer depends almost entirely on what you're trying to do. And that distinction matters a lot more than the hype cycle wants you to believe. Okay, quick context so we're all working from the same map. You've got ChatGPT, OpenAI's flagship, the one that basically broke the internet in late 2022 and hasn't really looked back. GPT-4o is the current workhorse. Then Gemini, Google's answer, built on top of infrastructure that processes more search queries per day than most countries have citizens. Gemini 1.5 Pro, with its 2 million token context window, is genuinely insane on paper. Then there's Grok, xAI's model, Elon Musk's project. It's got live access to X, formerly Twitter, which is either incredibly useful or a pipeline directly into the world's most confident misinformation, depending on your outlook. And then Claude, Anthropic's model, the one I describe as the careful one, which sounds boring until you realize careful is exactly what you want when you're not testing a demo, you're running a business. First test, pure reasoning. I ran a legal interpretation scenario through all four, not what is contract law, something specific, a conflict between two clauses in a fictional SaaS agreement with an indemnification edge case, the kind of thing a paralegal actually deals with. ChatGPT gave a solid answer, confident, structured, but it missed the conflict entirely and resolved both clauses as if they were compatible. They weren't. Gemini caught the conflict, flagged it, but hedged so hard on the resolution that it was practically useless in practice. Think, a doctor who correctly diagnoses the problem, but then says, "See a doctor." Grok, surprisingly good, more direct than I expected, but it also cited a case that, when I checked, just didn't exist. Like the case name was real. The ruling it described, made up, specific, confidently delivered, entirely fictional. Claude got the conflict, flagged the legal risk explicitly, and, importantly, said it wasn't a lawyer and recommended verification, which sounds like a cop-out until you realize the other three didn't say that, and one of them just invented case law. Coding round. I gave all four a busted async Python function, race condition, improper exception handling, and a subtle memory leak baked in. The kind of bug that doesn't crash your app immediately. It just quietly eats RAM for 3 days until your DevOps team has a very bad Monday. Here's where things got interesting. ChatGPT fixed the race condition and the exception handling. Clean, readable, but missed the memory leak. Gemini, honestly impressive here, caught all three, and its explanation was the clearest of the four. The way it broke down the async flow, I've seen senior engineers explain it worse. Grok fixed 2 of 3, which is fine, but at one point suggested wrapping something in a try except block in a way that would have swallowed the error silently and made debugging 10 times harder. That's not a fix. That's a hide the body situation. Claude caught all three, explained the memory leak in a way that actually taught me something about Python's garbage collector I hadn't thought about in a while, and flagged a fourth potential issue I hadn't even planted. A timeout that wasn't being handled in a specific edge case. I didn't ask for that. It just noticed. Writing test. I asked all four to draft a board memo about a hypothetical data breach, the kind of document that needs to be factually airtight, legally cautious, and still readable by a non-technical board member. Try threading that needle. ChatGPT produced something I describe as a perfect corporate template. It's fine. It's what you'd expect. The tone is exactly what McKinsey sounds like if McKinsey ran on electricity instead of billable hours. Gemini was good, but structured it weird, buried the key risk disclosure in paragraph 4 of 6, which in a real breach scenario is the kind of thing that gets lawyers very animated. Grok was punchy and direct, which I actually liked, but the tone veered into startup founder addressing early employees rather than company addressing fiduciary stakeholders. Context mismatch. Not wrong, just wrong for the room. Claude put the disclosure first, matched the register of a real board communication, and included a suggested next steps section with actual specificity, external counsel, regulatory timeline, customer notification window, not boilerplate, structured like someone who's read an actual incident response playbook. Now, and this is where the architecture differences actually matter, I tested live information access and multimodal input. This is not an even playing field by design, so I want to be clear about that. Grok has native real-time access to X. That's a genuine structural advantage for current events. If you're trying to track something breaking right now, a stock move, a political development, a tech announcement, Grok is pulling from a live fire hose that the others simply don't have. That's not a small thing. Gemini, with Google search integration turned on, is also pulling live, and its ability to process genuinely massive documents. We're talking a 1,500-page technical manual in a single context window is not matched by any of the others right now. If you're doing research at scale, that context length is a legitimate advantage, not a marketing number. ChatGPT's ecosystem is the widest. GPT-4o handles image input, voice, code execution, plugins. The breadth of the platform is unmatched. If you live in the OpenAI ecosystem already, the switching cost is real. Claude's multimodal is solid, not flashy, but the analysis it returned on a complex financial chart I uploaded was more nuanced than the others. It flagged a scaling inconsistency on the y-axis that would have materially changed the interpretation of the data. Which again, that's the careful thing. That's why it matters. I know what some of you are thinking right now. This guy is clearly biased toward Claude. Fair. I'm not going to pretend I don't find its approach to accuracy compelling, but look at the coding round. Gemini was genuinely the standout, and for real-time events, Grok's live data access is a real advantage nobody should dismiss. This isn't a clean podium finish. Here's what I'd actually say. If you're building something where a wrong answer has legal, financial, or safety consequences, Claude and Gemini are where I'd start for different reasons. If you're doing rapid content creation or need the widest tool set, ChatGPT's ecosystem is hard to beat. If you're a journalist, a trader, or anyone who needs to know what happened in the last 4 hours, Grok's real-time access is the thing nobody else has. The question isn't which model has the highest benchmark. Benchmarks are a controlled environment. They're the standardized test, not the job. The real question is which model fails in the least catastrophic way when it's wrong. Because they're all wrong sometimes. Every single one of them. The difference is in how and how often and in which direction. And here's the thing I keep coming back to. This race isn't over. It's not even close to over. The models you're comparing today will be significantly different versions of themselves in 6 months. And there are players we haven't talked about today who are building in directions that might flip this entire comparison. I'm watching that closely. So what I can tell you is this. The era of picking one AI and sticking with it forever is already over, even if most people haven't figured that out yet. The smartest thing you can do right now is know what each of them is actually good at. Not what the marketing says, not what the LinkedIn posts claim, what they do when you actually put them to work. Run your own tests, use your own problems, and the next time someone tells you one of these is definitively the best, ask them what task they ran, what failure mode they checked for, and whether they read the press release first or after.